everybody, Christiana Witt here and Cerise Burnson, and we are Horse Biz Automated. And today we're going to tell you about how do we create online courses? What topic? What pricing? How do I sell it? I would like to do one because I don't have to travel so much. It'll increase my impact, but it's all really scary. So we created a series of teachings for you that will guide you through the most important pieces that you need to decide before you even start. As Cerise can attest, we often see the cart in front of the horse, right? You create this huge course, and then you start to think, well, who is this for? What's it for? What problem do I solve? Why isn't it selling? How should I price it? It's worth thousands of dollars. So let us demystify this a little bit for you. Today, we're going to talk about how to find your perfect course topic. When I started in this industry in 2004, it was all about, well, who do I best coach? And there was a book that he put together a Venn diagram. And his point was, it's your passion intercepted by what your audience wants that creates the perfect topic. I would expand on this and say that there's a third circle, which is where's your heart in all of this? Where's your expertise in all of this? And what does your audience like? So let's start with the topic about where's your heart. When we help our clients, they often orient themselves to who they're already teaching something to. Those are my current clients, and this is what I teach them. And it always takes a little bit of unhooking in a way to get them away from, look, just because in your local business, in your local audience, 10-mile radius around your barn, that's what you teach. When you start to think about online courses, you instantly move from local to global, which means you're no longer attached to what your audience in your neighborhood wants. You can actually release this heart-centered, this heart-driven passion and desire for what you want to convey to the world. It's really questions about what brings you most joy? What brings you most fulfillment? Think about a moment that you were working with the horse or a client and it flowed. It was aligned with your values. It just felt so right. So might as well just pause this video for a second and really tap into your passion and values. What was a moment that brought you most joy? Write down at least, let's say, 3 different experiences where you felt so deeply connected to your work and your values. Something where you could do it and you would do it for free. This is just your life's passion. To me, now that I moved back to Germany, one of the things I miss most is gentling the wild horse. That first touch, that ability to bring an animal that is so scared of the human to stick out its nose and touch my hand. I just, I get emotional just thinking about it. So think about at least 3 experiences where you felt deeply connected to your core. And then also list a list of topics that you feel most passionate about, that you could talk about all day without getting paid.
This is a really good opportunity to think outside of your box or your discipline even. For example, we have a number of clients that perhaps specify in one particular discipline, but they're super passionate because they have a breadth of experience of helping horses across all disciplines or that have no discipline in equestrian sport. Really being able to let your imagination and your heart go wild and be outside of that box. I would identify myself as a dressage rider, although like Christiana, like Leah, we've all done so much. For me, when I was a trainer, the thing that lit me up the most was rehabbing the emotional side of highly trained, highly handled horses and getting them to crack open their hearts and their mind and start to be able to see humans as a partner rather than just a dictator, somebody that made them do a thing.
It's so fun to defrost, unfrost them, and then they get silly and they get naughty, and it's just like, there it is. That's truly the heart. So really spend some time thinking about what lights you up.
Then the next action step would be to create a list of topics related to horse care, training, or professional development that you really enjoy talking about, even if nobody paid you to do it. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. It's just the things that excite you the most. Any one of us in the horse world has been at a dinner party and somebody has made the mistake, a non-horse person, of asking us about what we do with horses. You just start running on, or, you meet another horse person and they have the same thing that sparks them and you could just talk for hours. Think about those sorts of things.
So then we combine that second part of the Venn diagram with the actual expertise. We have the heart, now we have the head. Like, what do you actually know? What are you really good at already? What are you at an expert level that you wouldn't feel like a fake or like an imposter to actually teach it? And here again, we get a lot of our clients that we already sensing are so deep and they're such experts in something and they still don't trust themselves to know enough. So we actually really encourage you, as you write this down for yourself, is to boast a little bit in front of your piece of paper, right? To say, I've really done this. I am good at this. And even if you're still learning, which this is a funny thing with the horse world, right? We never, in truth, don't ever hit absolute mastery. You'd have to be reincarnated several times to do that. But you know more than your client in many areas. So just think about, what do I know more of and have done often enough that I'm truly an expert? That could be somebody who's just a few steps ahead of a beginner. That's totally okay. As a matter of fact, somebody who's not that great, let's say, not a Grand Prix dressage rider or a 6-foot jumper or a 5-foot whatever, or an amazing eventer or whatever the high skill expertise is, you're actually closer to the person you're actually teaching it, because you still remember what it felt like when you got started. For me to teach somebody how to put a bridle on or a saddle on is really hard because it became so automatic 50 years ago, right? So don't dismiss something that you know, but you're not the world's best at. People don't learn from the world's best. They learn from somebody they can relate to.
The other thing to keep in mind on that topic is the fact that you're, again, not talking to your existing in-person clients. You're talking all around the world in a global audience, and don't let that scare you, but you are going to be eventually marketing this course to the right people. So that fear of not knowing enough doesn't really come into play because you know more than the people that you're going to be selling it to. Just imagine that you're talking to absolute beginners or whatever level that is just below where you are and expertly being able to explain it. Don't think about anybody beyond that. Don't let that fear of not being enough for those people come into play, because they're not the people you're talking to.
When we look at the pyramid, right, we have all these beginners and intermediate or hobby riders down here. And then we have just a few, high school advanced riders. So when you build your online course, you're actually going to be much safer picking an audience where you find a lot of them. Not the whole world, not everybody, but within that category. And we'll get into, who it is that you serve in another video. Don't hesitate to take your expertise. Don't judge it. Write it out. Think about 3 challenges that you've helped people overcome in the past. Could be the fear of cantering in a ring, if that's what it is, and make that your second Venn diagram. So also think back about what somebody has asked you for advice or guidance in the past. Don't go back, well, this local person has asked me how to trailer load my horse, but that's really not what I'm good at, so I can't build an online course. That is incorrect. That's your local audience, which is more likely made of the commonality is local, but their needs are very diverse. Versus when you build an online course, it's the opposite. Your topic is really narrow, and your people are really narrow. It's a narrow sliver of a global audience. So think about, what have you enjoyed help people overcome, and what questions have you really welcomed where you could almost not stop yourself but like rattle off the solution. Okay, we got your passion, we got your knowledge, and the third one is your audience. What does your audience need? Let's go play a little bit with need and want.
The difference between needing and wanting is the difference between having that spoonful of honey and having the medicine that goes into it. When you are selling an online course, yes, of course, you have to put into it what your audience needs, but the ultimate goal is to provide them with an outcome that they want. If somebody's looking for an online course, let's use the fear of canter as an example. They're not going to say, how do I dissect the trot to canter transition so that my horse doesn't invert and run off in a tooth-jarring trot and run into canter? They're not going to think like that. You know that you need to break down the transition or whatever particular part of getting over their fear of canter is in their way, but they're going to be looking for something that gives them the outcome of riding the most beautiful, enjoyable, fear-free canter of your life. You see how there's a very big difference. As the expert, it can be such a challenge to think about the want and not go into expert mode and start spooning them the medicine right away.
They're adults. That's their hobby. You have to also consider where that person is coming from. That's their hobby. They're spending a lot of time, money, energy. They make sacrifices to keep their horse. They have a desire inside their minds. You as expert might just say, well, that's an unrealistic desire. They really must know this first. Of course, there are ethical points to consider. But if the outcome is in somebody's heart as a buyer, it's going to be an uphill battle to sell it. The art of all of this is, what am I really passionate about? What am I an expert in? And where does this meet the sweet spot of what my audience wants? And that's not so easy, because we, of course, as horse first pros, we see that there sometimes is a clash between what an owner or rider wants versus what's right for the horse. Your job, and we'll get into that in some other point, is to create a course so that it sells on the desire, and then the course itself is structured so that you give them the right roadmap to get there that is horse first considered, right? And that's the art of teaching. The art of selling and the art of topic creation is really about hitting the sweet spot where there's a huge desire for people to purchase it in the first place. So what are some action points we can give here?
The action steps, there are going to be two that we want to talk about. The first one is going to be identifying the audience that best fits in that Venn diagram with the topic that lights you up, that you're super passionate about, and that you're an expert in. Once you know who fits into that particular slot of the global audience, then it allows you to start identifying their most common struggles, the questions that they frequently are going to have about this topic, so that when it comes time to sell your course, not only can you speak to them about those things, but empathize with them so that they feel seen and heard and acknowledged for where they are and where they want to go. And then the next step is going to be to actually go out and talk to those people. How many times, Christiana, do we see our clients as the experts get so entrenched in their knowledge that they forget, or perhaps never really knew, what it was like to be outside of that level of expertise? If you fall into that category, you actually have to go and talk to the people that would fit into your audience for this course and really poll them, get to know what it is that they struggle with the most when it comes to the outcome that your course is trying to deliver for them.
Yeah, and it could be like an easy little ABC. Are you more interested in this or this and that? Hop on direct message. Let's say use Facebook, and even hop on a call and interview them. Or if you have local people that you can identify as your ideal audience, interview them, talk to them, ask them, so that it's not some huge risk. You're not taking some nebulous path that is unproven, but you really are, this is where my heart is. This is where my expertise is. This is what my people want.
I teach an advanced marketing group, and there are a number of sayings that everybody that has been in the group for a long time, they see it coming a mile away when they ask me a question. And one of the things that I say is test it all the time, because the important thing to remember is that it doesn't matter what resonates with us as the experts, as the course creators, as the content creators, because we're not the ones that are going to buy the course.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, your audience, you might come up with a list of topics and a number of titles that you think would be really great for your course, and they fall flat because it's not what resonates with your audience. So really getting that deep insight about what your audience thinks, because ultimately, if they don't like what you're putting out, they're not going to buy it.
On the other hand, you must love what you're putting out. It's more that there are so many things I could be teaching is really the answer to that second topic, or the combination between heart and mind. And so then it narrows it beautifully down by really interviewing your audience and find that sweet spot. The same for us, right? We could be teaching about website creation or clinic business or online courses. So we too need to figure out where can we tap into an audience's need in a way that's unique to us and we actually have expertise in. Once you have the Venn diagram, the next thing that's going to very likely happen is that this course that you have in mind is a tomb. Oh, but they need to know this, and they need to know this, and they need to know this. And we have reviewed plenty of courses in our lifetime. We have taken courses that by the time we open them up, we're like, oh my God, it is either studying the course or going to see my horse. So horse wins each time. And then it's frustrating because the outcome that that course allowed me to see I could get to if I studied the material is interesting, but it's either that or that. I don't have that much time. So simplifying your course is going to be not so easy, but really allows you to walk into the shoes of the student. It's the same as with the horse, right? We go in with the goal of teaching the horse something, and now we teach it that and teach it that. And then, oh, and this, and look how great he's going. So I'm going to teach him something new. And pretty soon the horse goes overwhelmed. So what would you do as a horse pro when you teach, Cerise? How do you teach a horse something?
You break everything down into the smallest, most easily understandable step imaginable. Very often, more often than not, from our clients, I hear things like, well, isn't that too basic? Isn't that too simple? The same principles apply with humans and with horses. If you wouldn't want to overface a horse with too much information, too much demand on their mental capacity to get from one point to another point, you would want to break it down to that smallest possible bit. And what happens with that horse? Each time they have a success on that small little piece, they build confidence. And then they're more willing and more prepared to get to that next step. The same thing with your audience for course consumption is you don't want to overface them. You want to give them some little bitty small win, and it's going to feel so infinitesimally basic to you. But if it's a little thing that gives them that tiniest little bit of dopamine where they're made a win, it entices them to go on to the next thing, and they can pick another win and another one, and eventually they get to the outcome. But if it's too much too fast, they're just going to become daunted and shut down like a horse would.
We see this in the industry is that courses don't really get consumed. And that's a big piece. It's just, it's too big, too many topics. The goal is too big, too vague. It just demotivates me. I don't go in the arena and tell my horse, so today you're going to go great. That's not an outcome. That's great. But we could practice on your right shoulder release or something specific. You also know when to be done, right? You finish on a good note. The other thing with courses is that nobody's yet made a real living with one course. That's a huge purchase. Completion is very dismal. It's very discouraging for both you and the course taker. So pick a unique, specific outcome, knowing that you can build on that, knowing you can build a second course, a third course. It's okay. You're just testing the waters with this one if it's your first one, or if you've done it a little bit, it's your signature course. It's the one that you get known for. And then you can build up, you can build down. Our point is make it manageable, make it feasible, allow people to complete it, allow people to feel successful, and then build on that success by them purchasing another course.
I'm going to allude a little bit to one of our future topics too, but one of the things that I think a lot of our clients have done in the past is they've wanted to pack as much information into something as possible because they feel like they have to over deliver based on the price that they've set. We'll get into it more in the end, but ultimately you have to understand the value of your level of expertise and the value of achieving that one very targeted goal to your audience.
It's huge. Remember too that most of us are hobbyists. To achieve one thing is huge. We, for the most part, aren't wanting to go to the Olympics. Or how many times have we left the arena and felt like unbelievable because we've accomplished this thing, and then we tell somebody else that is not a horse person, like, yeah, so what? I don't understand, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how a course should be. So our call to actions for you would be create a list of the topics that you have created and then circle one topic that feels most meaningful to you. One topic. And then from that topic, create an entire course. All of the ideas that you have, all the topics don't make one course. One topic makes one course. Another really good help is to start with the end goal and then work backwards. So create one outcome-oriented sentence that describes the goal, that describes somebody's ability when they have completed your course. Able to canter worry-free in the arena. Again, write it a little bit more aspirational, but very, very specific. And then work your topics backwards and think, okay, what do I need to teach in order for that simple, seemingly, goal to be achieved? And now, Suresh, let's finish up because we could teach this days at a time. We know already in the back of our listeners, there's a little bit like, oh my God, that's a lot to consider. It can evolve. This is not a book. This is not something you will never be able to change again. Start with something, test your audience, test your course, and know that through the teaching, you will evolve. Through their questions, your course will evolve. It's supposed to always be better the next time, the next version. It's not supposed to be some static piece that needs to be perfect from the beginning on. So give yourself permission to allow for change in the future. And then do what we just told you to do for your course. Give yourself short time increments in which you brainstorm on the topics we just talked about. Don't get frazzled. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't go over threshold. Write them down. Let them sit. Let them cook a little. Take action.
And what you just said, Christiana, is so important, to write it down and then, essentially get it out of your head to free up space so that your subconscious can process it in the background. Because if you don't get all of those ideas out first, your brain will be stuck on them.
It'll be desperate to hang on to every thought that you have. So as soon as it's out, somehow psychologically the brain relaxes. Okay, it doesn't get lost. Hands makes more space for new ideas. And then, I don't know, this was a coach who taught me this years and years ago, would say, it's like a cake. You put it in the oven. It has its set time to cook or bake. If you take it out too early, it's, not good. If it's too late, it's overcooked. So put it away for a little bit, visit it a few times in a row, and then when you feel like good enough, go take action.